Today, I'm going to say something that's so taboo, so unspeakable, and so blasphemous for a business student. I'm surprised they even let me on this stage. I'm going to challenge one of the core ideas that every young capitalist at Stanford is taught. That when something matters, people pay what it's worth. Now, you might think we live in a world where that's the case, but today, I'm going to shatter that illusion. Don't believe me? Okay. Who here has ever bought something at a farmer's market? Okay. What about run a marathon? They look way too happy, by the way, to be running a marathon. What about been to Burning Man? Okay, a couple. Well, what if I told you the price tag for all of those experiences was far lower than what they actually cost to produce? Why? Because all of those experiences were made possible by volunteers. Volunteers are the reason you can browse the stalls at the Palo Alto Farmers Market to buy fresh fruit and vegetables. When runners crossed the finish line at the San Francisco Marathon, they were helped along the way by the volunteers staging the event. And Burning Man relies on volunteers to build their incredible art and infrastructure every year. So many of the experiences that we love and make our lives richer are made possible by volunteers. They are the invisible infrastructure holding our communities together. Now, many of us may not think about the ways that volunteers impact our lives, because our idea of who a volunteer is and who they help is rooted in an outdated and simplistic image, something or someone that looks something like this. Some of us think of volunteers as annoying do-gooders. They might be serving soup at a community kitchen, raising funds for a homeless shelter, or reading to seniors, but they're not impacting our lives, right? Wrong. Volunteers absolutely impact your life and the communities you live and work and play in, regardless of tax bracket. In America last year, volunteers contributed 5.3 billion hours of labor. And those hours never show up on any balance sheet. They are the backbone of those communities, and they're so interwoven into our lives that it's easy to think they'll just always be there. But they will not. The number of people volunteering has been falling for decades. And those that are still volunteering, well, they're volunteering far fewer hours than they used to. Those still volunteering last year volunteered 30% fewer hours than just a decade ago. Think about that drop. 30% in just 10 years. And our communities and our organizations and our volunteers, they're the ones feeling the strain. So I want to tell you a story about Kathy. Kathy is a woman I volunteer with at Girl Guides of Canada, and she is a far better human being than I will ever be. She helps out with multiple troops. She coaches her daughter's soccer team. She raises funds for different community groups. And I found out recently, as if that was not enough, she started to raise foster cats. But when I was talking to Kathy recently, I realized something. She is so exhausted because every year, fewer and fewer people are stepping forward to help her. And she knows if she takes a step back, there's not going to be anyone there to take that on. There's not going to be anyone there to inspire the next generation of girls, to teach someone how to do a perfect corner kick, or to take care of those adorable, adorable kittens. And there are thousands of Kathys out there, and they need our help. But it's not laziness or a lack of interest that's meaning people are volunteering less. It's shifting societal trends. So we can go into a few of them. First, the rising cost of living means that people are working longer hours or they're taking second jobs to make ends meet. That means there's less time to spend in community or volunteering. Second, millennials and Gen Z, many of us in this room, are delaying starting families, impacting volunteer rates because parents are one of the most likely groups to volunteer. Religious institutions, which connect their members with opportunities for service, they're also seeing falling participation rates. And it's also just getting a lot harder to volunteer. Rising administrative burden on organizations for things like insurance and permits and training. And I even saw a Reddit thread recently where some volunteers were complaining about being criticized for not hitting their quarterly key performance indicators. I know, what are we going to do if they don't hit their KPIs? We're not going to give them their annual bonus of $0? But why does this matter? Can't we just pay someone to do this labor? Isn't that what they teach us here at a business school? Well, putting aside the extra costs we'd all pay on every head of lettuce, on every museum admission fee, on every soccer registration fee, there's a deeper reason we can't lose volunteering. It's not just communities that see those benefits. It's all of us as volunteers. Research shows there's huge benefits from volunteering, and there's the obvious things, the sense of pride and joy you get from helping people out, or the career boost you see from the skills that you learn. But it's more than that. Volunteers have better physical and mental well-being. They're more strongly socially connected, and this is so critical, they have higher senses of purpose and meaning. And why does that matter? Because last year, more than 50% of Americans, that's all of you in this section over here, reported wanting and thinking at least once a month about how to find more purpose and meaning in your life. Younger generations, millennials, Gen Z, have higher rates of loneliness, of disconnection, and volunteering can be the cure to the loneliness crisis and help make us be more connected to our communities. And I know that's what it did for me. I remember volunteering with Girl Guides of Canada, and it was a Monday morning. I was driving to my unit meeting, and I was so exhausted. I'd had the worst day of work. It is Canada in January, so it was cold. And I sat in my Corolla staring at the steering wheel, wondering why I was doing this. But I got out of the car and I went to the community hall, and inside it was very loud. There were girls screaming and boots and jackets and mess everywhere. And again, I thought, why am I doing this? But then it happened. We were doing a science experiment, and in the middle of it, this young girl, 10 years old, comes up to me and says, "You know, I didn't used to have a lot of friends before I joined Girl Guides, but now I do. That's awesome!" And she went off back to her friends without a second thought, leaving just a trail of baking soda and vinegar behind her. But that moment took me back, because I realized what I did in that moment had purpose. I was connected to something greater than myself and had meaning beyond me. And those moments of purpose and meaning that come from volunteering, well, they're few and far between sometimes in our day job, no matter how much shareholder value we might be creating. But they happen all the time when you're volunteering. So how do we create more of those moments? Well, there's a few things we can do. First, governments have a role that they can play. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that at a business school, but Mary hasn't pulled me off stage yet. So a tax credit or tax break, similar to what we give for monetary donations, can go a long way to both recognize the contributions of volunteers and make it more financially accessible. Businesses have a role that they can play. Employer-supported volunteer programs are one of the only interventions that are actually shown to boost employee morale. So invest in those, not in nap pods or ping pong tables. Organizations, of course, can make it easier to volunteer by making opportunities more flexible and adaptable for today's volunteers. And finally, all of us here in this room have a role to play. So I'd like you all to take a moment and think about something you love doing that brings you genuine joy. Got it? Okay, now I want you to think about how you can share that with your community. If you love hiking, can you volunteer to maintain trails? If you love history and going down Wikipedia rabbit holes, maybe you can volunteer at your local museum. And if you just love watching things go up in flames, I hear Burning Man is looking. But no matter what you do and what you get connected to, you will find a community of people passionate about the same things you are while doing something you love. And you won't just be consuming experiences, you'll be creating them. Volunteers truly are the invisible infrastructure that runs our community. And if we're not careful, it's not going to be there much longer. But if all of us can come together and find a way not just to fix and repair that infrastructure, but to truly build it up again, then we will all be so much richer for it. Thank you.